Thank you, Sam. Good morning, everyone. I'm excited to be chairing the next three sessions. I realized that I forgot to introduce myself yesterday, so I just wanted to briefly introduce myself. I've been practicing as a logic-based therapy consultant since 2021. My background is in philosophy and theology. I'm currently a graduate student in the Department of Clinical and Counseling Psychology at Columbia University. My research encompasses liberation psychology, existential psychology, and positive psychology. I will now like to invite our next speaker, uh, Mohit Gohil. I apologize if I mispronounced your name. They will be speaking on bridging ancient wisdom and modern counseling, integrating Vedanta philosophy and with logic-based therapy for culturally inclusive psychological practice. Whenever you're ready, if you can just unmute your mic, please.
Hello. Thank you so much. And yes, you pronounced my name right. Uh, am I audible? Is there any issue in my voice or am I audible?
Uh, I can hear you clearly. And
Oh,
I will
okay.
also just like to read your bio. Um, He is from India, a psychology student, and a learner by nature. They love to explore multiple dimensions of knowledge and identify connections and patterns.
Okay, thank you. Uh, Greetings to everybody available here. So, my name is Mohit Gohil, and today, as mentioned by my chair, I'm going to talk about the topic of ancient wisdom and the framework of LBT. Just give me a minute so that I can share my screen. Is it visible to everyone? Hello. I hope my screen is visible, right? Okay, okay. Thank you. Good evening to everyone. Uh, I am thankful for my teacher mentor, Dr. Himani Soto ma'am, for giving me an opportunity, and also a very big thank you to Dr. Cohen for this part. Today, as mentioned, the topic is more about introducing some sort of philosophical antidotes through Vedanta philosophy, or what we call as Upanishads in India, so that in terms of inclusive psychological practice we can have sufficient amount of antidotes from the Indian perspective, especially from the Vedanta philosophy. uh, Going further, the three basic topics that I aim to touch today through my paper is giving a brief idea about what is Upanishad or what are Upanishads, giving a small framework about LBT, and some sort of philosophical antidotes that I researched or found out. Okay, so the primary question that starts with is what are Upanishads? So in Indian philosophies, we have the four major sources of knowledge called as the Ved or the Vedas, and out of these, something called as Vedanta emerged. So, like as the word suggests, Vedanta is basically the culmination of the knowledge in Ved. So, rather than reading multiple scriptures together, there was the like creation, or in a way writing of Upanishads or Vedanta, used sometimes interchangeably, so that the essence of the Ved can be talked about and can be specified in a very specific manner as per the nature. Essentially, there are many Upanishads. There are generally nine major Upanishads considered to be, out of which Chandogya Upanishad is the one that was the main source of my study today. Uh, Secondly, what is the need for counseling in India? I specifically believe that in a democratic setup like India, where we have a surge in mental health therapy, because the pre-lockdown era was a bit different for the Indian context, where people were hesitant to take on for therapy. But now we see a rise in awareness about mental health awareness, and I feel that using the framework of LBT and connecting it with the ancient wisdom that India possesses can be a good idea to create a more sustainable environment for the people available here. So the main concept or the core idea of Upanishad is to talk more from the perspective of what we call as Atman and Brahman, where Atman basically means the one or the self, and Brahman basically means the one. So the basic idea of all the Upanishad is that the Atman, that is the self, is a part or is itself the Brahman, which is the whole world. And that is the reason that look from a clinical perspective or from the frameworks of guiding virtues, this one particular principles enshrined in the Upanishads can be a guiding stone so that we can talk and try to uh, refute or try to in a way give uplifting philosophies to the clients coming up. So I had like we had the privilege to learn from Dr. Cohen about LBT and the seven major traits or the fallacies that people make, starting from demanding perfection to manipulation or the world revolves around me tendencies. So my main research or the main motive is to give certain sort of philosophical antidotes for each of these ideologies. Starting from the very first part is demanding perfection, where an individual is seen to demand like the exact or the preciseness of a particular work, and it goes so much so that seeking perfection becomes the goal, leading to uh, a bit of fallacy in terms of overall thinking. Second is awfulizing, where we generally tend to think from bad to worst in like within some cognitive steps, where individuals generally try to uh, convert everything into the worst case possible scenario in the available situation. Third is damnation of self, others, and the universe. So, where people generally criticize either oneself or others or the entire universe for things happening around themselves. Fourth is jumping on the bandwagon, where a particular person's in a way essentially adopts the herd mentality, sorry, and tries to follow or do what people around themselves are doing. Fifth is constipation, where people have this issue or the problem of not doing anything or not able to perform certain actions available. Sixth is thou shalt upself yourself, or what we call as dutiful worrying, where we see that individuals generally think a lot about the issues that they think are important, and they expect themselves and the people around themselves to worry about the same situation or try to solve the situation that one person feel it is important or it is very stressful for them. Seventh is manipulation, which was discussed by the earlier speakers, Tejaswini ma'am and Charita ma'am. And eighth is also the world revolves around me tendency, which was covered up in the last session. So talking about Upanishads, the one important thing which I like about Upanishad is that they have an idea of telling things with the help of stories. We discussed last like the yesterday. We were also discussing about how drama play or role playing can be a very important part of the therapeutic practice, whether it is philosophical counseling or psychological counseling. I also believe that somewhere or the other way, uh, learning through stories is something what we have started from. Doesn't matter which culture do we belong to, but we all have some sort of folklore, some sort of bedtime stories that were told to us, that were explained. And somewhere or the other, they do give or they do have an impact in the ways in which we look at our world. Upanishad also followed a similar pattern where the core philosophical ideas and knowledge are being transferred or maybe conveyed with the help of certain stories. So, my main motive is that let's try using Upanishads and some of the stories given through the Upanishads, or while I was like researching for the Upanishad, I found some stories connected to it but not being exactly a part of any Upanishad. So this is what I'm trying to present in this paper, where the main motive is to give certain type of antidotes. And I truly believe that there are certain stories, there are certain narratives that when a particular person hear, it can lead to a very culturally inclusive practices. In India, where we see that there are different types of cultures, there are different types of belief systems in people. I think that using the pioneer of those belief systems or maybe the propagator of those beliefs, those religious ideas, and sharing their stories can be a good way of helping the people to come out from the fallacies. So, as starting from the first fallacy that we have, which is demanding perfection, where an individual essentially tries to uh, do the things in a particular derived pattern, thinking that there is a particular perfectionist idea, and one of the guiding virtue for that is metaphysical security. And from here we start with some kind of stories that I would like to add here. the Nachiket's quest. So in Kathopanishad, Nachiket is considered to be the son of one of the king who did some kind of yajna, or what we call as some kind of offerings to the god. And during the whole journey, the king who wanted to renounce all the bondages or patterns that he has associated in this world was unable to, in a way, give away that love or bond that he has with Nachiket. So the feeling of leaving away all the bandhan or the ties that you have from this world was getting difficult from him. And here we see Nachiket, who is the son of this king, who went to the god of death, as in the Indian culture or the Indian setting, which is called as Yama, and he has a discussion there regarding what is life and what is death. And the main purpose of his discussion or his inquiry was to understand that what is the reason that my father, who is such a big king, who tried to give away everything for the other people, is not able to give away the attachment that he has for me. And in Kathopanishad, we see a discussion happening between the god of death, which is Yam, and Nachiket. So it's basically life and death talking to each other in the whole philosophical dialogues, where Yam explained him that there are two kind of pleasures or two kind of seekings that the world tries to derive from. One is prayer and the other is shreya. So as mentioned, prayer is something which is very immediate sensory pleasure, where a particular person tries to take the things from their own side, or like where a particular person basically wants everything in the moment. And there is something called as shreya. Shreya is the long term bliss, as we call it. And in the discussion, this particular part goes away where Yam explains to him that it is those who understands that the world around us is an illusion, as we call in India the Maya, is when a particular person understands that the Atman or the eternal self is something which is very constant. So for anybody who is very much connected to, or who's very much particular about the perfectionist tendencies that we have, talking about the discussion between life and death, and how Nachiket got to know that Atman or the eternal self is something which is unchanging, and everything around other things will keep on changing, is something that can be taken. And one of the important phrase that Nachiket in this whole discussion mentions is when Yam asks him to get certain kind of goals, and Yam offers him all sorts of worldly pleasures, privileges, and other things. But Nachiket denies it, saying that I know that even if I take it now, in the next some years of span of time, when my body perishes or it weakens, these sensory pleasures won't make any sense to me. So rather than going to something which is going to be perished in the future, I would prefer to look and try to understand the eternal self. So maybe talking about the philosophy of Kathopanishad, especially the story of Nachiket's quest, can be a good way to explain, or maybe help to explain the idea of metaphysical security. Going ahead, we also have the story of Valmiki. In Indian mythology or history, Ramayana is considered to be written by sage Valmiki, and it is like very few people who have an idea that initially Valmiki was called as Ratnakar, who was a bandit, who was basically a type of dacoit who used to steal people's money and pleasure, or money and wealth. And there is a very beautiful discussion of how Valmiki and sage Narad, which is one of the rishis in the Indian mythologies, have a discussion about wealth, and have a discussion about what is important for a person in life. Where Valmiki stresses that I think that the world, or at least the world that I have around me, which is my family, everything needs to be perfect. I need to make sure that my wife gets a particular ornament, my kids get a particular type of idea, my father gets something that he wants, while Narad proposes an idea to go to them and ask them if they are even ready to take the part of Valmiki's misdeeds or the wrongdoings that he did. And there we see that Valmiki basically goes to his family and asks, say, are you ready to take the responsibility of my karma, the things that I do? Do you think that, are you going to take the responsibility of my misdeeds? And maybe try to compensate, or when I am in the trials of the god, will you be there with me to face the same thing? And upon family's detachment from his karma, he understood the part that maybe what he was seeking through perfection was not something that is eternal. And this is how we see Valmiki transitioning from Ratnakar to Valmiki, and later on, as the story progresses in the Indian cultures, being one of the writers of the biggest mythology in India, one of the biggest mythology in India, which is Ramayana, the story of Ram and Sita. So maybe talking about how Valmiki embraced the metaphysical truth and transcendent from the fallacy of asking for permission, asking perfections, to the eternal truth or the eternal concept of the one or the being, can be a very good philosophical antidote. Going further, we have the next uh, fallacy, which is awfulizing. This is generally characterized by thinking from bad to worst. One of the major proponents of Indian philosophies or the stories that could be a very good antidote for people like having this fallacy can be the story of Tulsidas. Tulsidas is considered to be the writer of Manas, which is an adaptation of Valmiki's Ramayana, and it basically translated the whole Ramayana from Sanskrit to the local language Awadhi, which helped people to understand the concepts and theories more. But many few people know that Tulsidas had his own life being filled with multiple setbacks or failures, where his father abandoned him after his birth because he was considered to be born in a wrong or a malfunction nakshatra. After this, he was abandoned by his family, and one beggar adopted him. When Tulsidas turned somewhere around 9, we see that how that particular person also died due to some kind of disorder or disease. And this is how Tulsidas, for the whole span of his life, was craving for love or was craving for help from the world. But the world abandoned him, thinking that he is a misfortune child, or wherever he goes, he will bring misfortune. But even in this whole like the turmoil of all the awful incidences, his courage for being strong enough to stand in front of people, and after that to marry his wife Ratnavali, shows that how he made sure that he overcame everything that was around, like everything around him that was causing him to stop, to move around and try to work on things that he knew would work. Then the story goes further where Ratnavali criticizes Tulsidas for being overly attached to him and not doing the bhakti or the devotion for the god, as Tulsidas was one of the people whose main work was to talk about the stories of God, to talk about the folklores, and then like help people propagate the knowledge. And we see that how after this particular criticism, he abandoned his marital life. He had the courage to fight in front of those orthodox Brahmins who had a hold on Sanskrit and who were not ready for Ramayana to get translated into Awadhi or any particular local language for that matter. And it is Tulsidas' courage in the whole process, which is the reason that why even today in Indian households, Manas is revered to be one of the most holy books, and it is considered to be the book that directly helps us to understand the whole lores of Lord Rama. Valmiki Ramayana, since it is in Sanskrit, is considered more to be a Brahmin text, and we see that even now, if I try to see around myself, I will find many people who might enjoy sitting in the Ramayana part where Tulsidas Ramayana or Ramcharitmanas is explained or is talked about in the span of 9 days, which is called as a Navaik part. And I think that that particular connection that people have with Tulsidas can help us to give them this philosophical education about his courage and his story, which can help them to prevent going through the part of going towards the path of fossilizing their own ideas. Next, we also have Ashtavakra. Ashtavakra, considered to be one of the sages in the Upanishads. His journey is more about how he faced the evil standard of society, being a disabled person and a person whose father lost in one of the shastras or a debate that happened in the nearby town during a type of philosophical discussion. He was subjected to different types of trials and different types of criticisms. And the story progresses as when Rishi Udalak, which is one of the sages in Indian philosophy, his son Shwetketu asks him, "Ke Rishi Uddalak is my father, and I get the right to sit with him and to understand his knowledge. You go and talk to your father." And that was one of the incidences that triggered him to work more and more towards understanding Vidya and Avidya. And Ashtavakra's story progresses further where he challenges the same sage who initially uh, who initially was the reason why his father had to die, because the basic system of that debate was that anybody who loses the debate has to sacrifice their own life. And we see a series of debate, or what we call as Shastrat, going on between Ashtavakra and the sheep, where eventually Ashtavakra wins. And even in the agony of the whole criticism or the whole turmoil that he faced, he was kind enough to understand the difference between Vidya and Avidya, and he was the one who said that there is no the eternal self is all within us, and the biggest courage for me would be to forgive you and to let you live for the whole life, so that you understand the guilt of all the people who died because of the condition of the debate. And that is how we see Ashtavakra being one of the person who showed that courage. I hope this is not getting too much.
I
I
just
had some
wanted to
so.
let you know that
Huh.
there's 5 minutes left in your presentation before we have to go into Q&A.
Yes, yes, works. Next is the philosophical fallacy of damnation, where the virtue is respect. And we see the story of Adi Amma, which is one of the like sisters of one of the rishis called as Iyengar in the south, like in the southern philosophy of in the southern part of India. And the story progresses as the Iyengar, the poet, was very much inclined to maybe have lots of worldly pleasures, and he believed that the whole world is a nightmare, and he portrayed a lot of damnation to the others through the overall story. And it was Adi Amma in that particular story who, through her ideas, led to that particular poet to transform. And there, the main virtue that was highlighted was respect. Similar part, going towards other, like going to the next part, we have the next fallacy of jumping on the bandwagon, where authenticity is the main core virtue. Here we have the story of Gargi in Kathopanishad. So many people believe that Upanishads are entirely dominated by male philosophers, but we also see multiple female philosophers called as Vidushis being taking a part in the philosophical discussion. Gargi was one of them, who, with the help of her overall knowledge and her authentic self and the idea that she had about her knowledge, fought against Yajnavalkya, who was one of the then considered to be one of the most knowledgeable sage, and her own courage to fight against him and to seek the truth independently can be a guiding philosophy to mention about authenticity. Going ahead, huh. We have the fallacy of constipation, where the guiding virtue is control. And here, one of the insights that is given, was mentioned in one of the Upanishads that I read, was the story of Siddhartha, one of the disciples. So, the story is very small that the person Siddhartha was trying to do tapasya tap, which is basically trying to do certain kind of practices to like invoke the god and the godly presence, and he was failing to do so for multiple attempts. While he almost fell because of hunger, one of the rishis around, going through the river, mentioned to his disciple that if you try to pluck the veena string very tightly, there are chances that the string may just break. If you pluck it very loosely, there are chances that the sound will not come. So the main part is to choose a balance, to choose a control or moderation between the two extremes. And this is what can help in constipation, where a person goes to extreme tendencies of either not doing it because they feel that it is too much for us to do or it is too less for us to do. So striking a moderation or a temperance in that case can be a good idea to mention. Next is dutiful worrying, and the guiding virtue is moral creativity. Here is the story of Akbar and Tansin and Tansin's guru Haridas. So Akbar, because he had the idea, or because he was from of the nature of trying to like because he wanted to understand art more and more and understand or listen to better and better music. He once asked Tansen to take him to his guru, and his guru Haridas denies to sing in front of Akbar for almost 3 days. And we see how Akbar, who is considered to be like one of the biggest rulers in the Mughal Empire, tried to be there. And it was Tansen who said that my guru Haridas don't sing for anybody to listen. He sing for his own joy. He sing for the joy of singing, and that is the difference between me and my guru. That I sing for you, that is Akbar, but my guru Haridas sings for the eternal God. And here we see that how the dutiful worrying portrayed by Akbar was countered by Tansen's idea of moral creativity by letting him wait patiently in the overall process and to make him realize the essence of art or the essence of any work. Any work done is not because you need to follow certain kind of worldly motives, but it also imbibes certain kind of main purpose or like deeper meaning that you give to your particular work or art that lead to a better upliftment. Going further, we have a world that revolves around the tendencies, where I think that the story of Ashtavakra and the Arunagiri that I mentioned can be a good example of how the Rishi mentioned in the Ashtavakra, who was very much of a narcissistic tendency and who believed that nobody will be able to ever decide him in the debate, where Ashtavakra turned out to be the winner. And also for Arunagiri, where he thought that maybe his bodily pleasures are the entire his bodily pleasures is the entire important thing in the world, which got later opposed by his elder sister, which is Adi Amma. And last but not the least, I would like to conclude from the four Mahavakyas that each of the Upanishads, each of the Ved from the Upanishads try to give, which in a way gives an essence about the overall sense of different kinds of philosophy. And it was one of the discussions that I remember between our class and Imani ma'am, where we were discussing that somewhere how demanding perfections or the ideologies associated with demanding perfections can lead to other kind of philosophical fallacies. And Upanishads have a very different and beautiful way of talking about how to make sure that you don't demand perfections, as well as you don't fall into the trap of thinking that you are a self-absorbed person, which is through Mahavakya. The first is Pragyanam Brahm, which is basically that consciousness or Pragyan is the essence of Brahm. So it's basically a correlation between consciousness and Brahman, saying that the world and the life that you have within yourself both are a part of the same thing, which in a way highlights the idea of metaphysical security. The second Mahavakya is Aham Brahmasmi, which is I am Brahman. So once you realize that you as a individual self is a part of an entire globe or the eternal self, the problem of the fallacy of world revolving around me or maybe manipulations get countered, because when you understand that you are a part of the whole and the whole is a part of you, every other person in and around me would be my own extension. And once you realize that okay, the person in front of me is just another me, it is very difficult for you to try to disrespect disrespect that particular person or try to manipulate the other person, because in that case the truth that you and the other person is made from the same elements would always be rehearsed or heard in your mind. The third Mahavakya in Upanishad or
I
the Ved is
apologize for interrupting. We just have to go into the Q&A now.
oh,
I don't know if you would like to just conclude in like about a
yes, yes,
minute.
yes, yes. I will conclude it, sure, sure. So the third is Tat Tam Asmi, which is that thou art, which can be a guiding philosophy for empathy or authenticity. And the fourth is I am Atma Brahma, which is the self is Brahman, which is again one of the guiding philosophies for manipulation, which is empowerment. So thank you very much for this opportunity. And once again, thank you to Dr. Cohen and Imani ma'am for this wonderful opportunity. And so sorry for taking a bit larger amount of time.
Thank you for your presentation. And now we can open it up to Q&A. If you have a question, if you can just um, unmute your mic.
I think you've done a wonderful job in showing the how Indian philosophy can be used through the stories of told to exemplify the virtues. I'm wondering if you've tried it out with clients.
Uh, like, unfortunately, till now, no, because I'm still in the second year of my undergraduate degree.
Uh,
So, what I was thinking was that maybe as a part of my initial study, I can at least look out for philosophies that I am very interested of, and in the further times when I actually is certified to do practices, I can try and have an idea. That was the main reason I wanted your feedbacks about these ideas.
I see. I see. Well, this is a great start, where you're heading. So, congratulations on that great paper. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
I would be very happy to know from you or from any other person available if they have certain feedbacks in terms of the practicality aspect of it, or if they would maybe guide me more towards how, as Dr. Gohil mentions, it can work more in a better approach in the therapy sessions.
Yeah, I think that um, keep tying it to the more rational thinking, like if you have a client that has low self-esteem, what sort of philosophy, Indian philosophy, would connect with self-respect and how that, and which ones would resonate with the specific client. And some of the, so if you have an assortment of different Indian philosophies, uh, in an Indian culture, that, could make it more likely that you would be able to find, a resonant philosophical perspective that would be useful. And I'm wondering too if uh, non Indian philosophies, and this is a question to you, could work also with Indian um, populations, and if so, which types of non-Indian philosophies would do you think might work um, reasonably within that population? And that's a hard question because there's so much diversity, I realize, but what do you think?
Talking about the first part of your question regarding the idea of self-esteem, I guess that the philosophies or the Mahavakya that we learn in Upanishads can be a good example of
Hmm.
letting an individual know that you are not a limited individual being. Like uh, one of my like the person from whom I started learning about philosophy was J. Krishnamurti, and he specifically talks about how the individual self is basically a part of the eternal, and through different types of like just like Socrates has a dialectical method of talking. I really used to enjoy how he connects with the clients, like connects with the people around him too. So I
Hmm.
guess those philosophies can be a very good idea to let people know that even if they think that they are a very limited being because of the limitation, because thought in the very like absolute form is very limited. You cannot think much. The information that you have at a particular point of time would be limited. So whatever do you think about yourself in terms of your self concept and self image in that moment will be limited. So maybe letting them know that beyond the errand of thoughts, there is like something beyond the worldly thoughts as well, which can have unlimited potential, can be a good idea. And talking about the second part of your question that you mentioned, ke, using non-Indian philosophies, I guess it is very much possible. Like, though I have not seen it directly working in the sessions, but we have had multiple discussions where Himani ma'am mentioned it a lot about, like, of course, by maintaining the confidentiality of the client, but she gave us some kind of examples or ideas where talking about Socrates or talking about some other kind of philosophers available can be a good idea. Uh, what I see personally among the cohort from where I belong to, Stoicism is something which is very famous around people. People like
Mhm.
to talk about the Stoic philosophy because after the whole Aristotelian area, when if there is somebody who is very much like known in our world is Stoic, still Socrates deserve a lot of respect because the like dialectical method is something that we really enjoyed, and I know I guess you might have heard it multiple times from ma'am K. Ma'am like playfully mentioned Socrates as her first love. So those are the two philosophies which has impacted me a lot and which
Mhm.
I see prevalent around me. For those students who don't learn philosophy as a subject or maybe psychology as a subject, for them these two will be some of the philosophies or philosophers' ideas from which they will resonate more. Yesterday we also had Radha speaking about ikigai and how it can be used in the context of philosophical career counseling. I
Mhm.
guess the Japanese philosophy right now is being taken into consideration because of the like because of the fact that the book is very famous in India, especially like from the place where we come, Mumbai. So I guess these three can be a couple of ideas through which we work. And even if a person might not know Socrates, the ideas that he had are always prevalent to be spoken about.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. It's not even necessary to know who a particular philosopher is in order
Right.
for it to work. It's just the idea that's the most important part of it. Yeah, you're right. Thank you.
We have 7 more minutes. There are any more questions?
Yes, I have one. Very good presentation, Mohit. I'm really happy. Uh,
Thank you.
now that you have spoken about how Upanishadic stories can help us in dealing with the different fallacies that you mentioned, you are you are a student, so you know the student community much better and closely. So anxiety seems to be, especially related to exams. So exam anxiety seems to be quite a common concern amongst students. So, how do you think the Upanishadic stories or any particular story that can become an uplifting philosophy for dealing with anxiety?
Okay. Thank you so much for the question, ma'am. Um, the perspective from where like I have seen exam stress or anxiety in like our setup, like especially in the Indian setup, is more because somewhere or the other it is prevalent among other cultures as well that students have this like trend now. Can we study one day before the exams only? So it's more about constipation right now. Okay, even if you know that you need to study, or even if you know that you are supposed to make sure that you complete one particular assignment long before the deadline, still we prefer to, in a way, try to let it go, let it ignore, and we say, "Ki, no, I can't do this," like in that manner. One important aspect of exam stress is like something that I see in my students is they get stressed, they get panicked, and they start like criticizing themselves for in the exam while the examination is going on. They will start criticizing themselves for the like leisure that they took in terms of the preparation. We also see how some students, those who are very particular about their academics, tend to go more towards the side of demanding perfections. They want to make sure that they write this particular point in this answer, otherwise the answer is a failure. So I guess in that mindset, it's better to go more towards the causation of it. If the exam stress is coming from the part that you are trying to like ignore the work that you are supposed to do and it's constipation, then like I suggested that certain kind of stories or certain kind of ideas where especially from the student lens, we have multiple teacher-student dialogues available in the Upanishad, whether it be Shvetketu and Uddalak's dialogues, whether it can be Shankaracharya and his disciples' dialogue. Those can be a good way of letting them know how the like disciple and the guru or the teacher ideology used to work in Indian culture. if it is coming more from the idea of demanding perfections, where the main motive is कि I need to make sure that I do this particular like effort, or I write in this particular manner, then only I'll work or perform good in my exams. So in that particular case, it is better to go more from the approach of letting them know the motive of the examination. Like, it is not always about the marks and GPA and you trying to maintain your grades every time. uh, it's more also from the lens of what is the main purpose of understanding from it, and the very fact that sometimes people do in a way show blind conjecture some part, where they just they just try to say कि, okay, bad things happened to me last time, last exam was bad, so maybe this exam will also go bad. Sorry, distorting probabilities. So in that case, I guess working on the cause would be better. I can, I guess, tell one example which I mentioned in the PPT also, which was Haridas and Tansen. When Akbar asks, you both are almost equally good in terms of your pitch and tonations and voice, then what is the reason that your guru or your teacher speaks better or sings better as compared to you? Then he mentions that my guru knows the purpose of singing, and he works or he sings for himself. He sings for the like he sings when he feels like, and he does with a intrinsic idea of what he is doing. Whereas for me, it is more to make sure that I don't lose things that I have with myself. So many people or many students who might have a similar mindset can be talked about from this manner. So the more and more you let them know the motive of doing anything, I think it would be better for a person to understand why to do it. Though there are chances there will be cognitive dissonance, but that is it. What about, you need to flex your will muscle. You need to make sure that you present those uplifting philosophies again and again in a setup, so that they realize that okay, it is possible.
Thank you, Mohit.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mohit. I'm going to read just a couple of comments that are on the chat. Adriana says, "Thank you. That is a very interesting. I wish you'd had more time, and I'm so sorry that there's a limited amount of time for the presentations." And Suraj says, "An exquisitely insightful presentation. Thank you so much." We just have 2 more minutes. If anyone has one more question. Thank you so much, Moki, for your presentation.